Yo, it is Ian from Around the Ball HQ, and we're going to talk about the Jaguars. Look, they've opened up their season better than you could have probably hoped for as a Jaguars fan. The Jags are 3-1 on the season and a bad PI call away from being 4-0. They've played their opponents tough. They've played gritty. I think the only thing that you can really say about them is that they've kind of not looked great on offense, which, again, new system, rookie wide receiver that's playing both sides of the ball, three new offensive linemen on the offensive line. It's a lot to, sorry, two offensive linemen that are new on the offensive line, but it's a lot to kind of digest, right? But look at the defense, man. This is the first time I've seen the Jaguars play true complementary football, and the offense still isn't moving the way it's supposed to. So I think there's a lot to look at for the Jaguars and just how good they've been. They lead the league in turnovers. They have the fewest amount of sacks allowed on an offensive line. Look, those are the two things where Liam Cohen coming in, you were hoping would happen. Okay. Coach Camp comes in and transforms that defense completely. The defense is playing at an all-pro, all-historic level, creating 3 turnovers in 4 straight games. In the last one, they did 4. And look, you can even look at some of the games that they've played. They should have more, right? They've had a couple defensive penalties that have halted and brought stuff back. Andrew Wingard had a pick 6 week 1 that got brought back by a holding way away from the play. I say it like that because I think it's important to know, like, the holding didn't attribute to the catch and interception, right? It was away from the play. Bryce Young just made a bad decision and threw it there, but because there was holding, it was brought back. But you can say that a lot. Even against Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow gets hit as he's throwing. They say it's a forward pass, not a fumble. I think a lot of Jags fans and fans around the NFL are hoping a play like that would be a fumble, specifically because of the way it happens. He's getting hit as he throws. The ball goes backwards, so it's a forward pass, but it's backwards, so it should have been a fumble, right? Now the rules say if your arm is hindered in any way to throw a certain direction, that's the reason it's not a fumble. I think that's maybe something that should be looked at in the offseason by the officials and Roger Goodell. Because look, there's already so much going against the defense. You got to give, if they hit the QB's arm and it goes backwards, that should be a fumble. But regardless, like I said, they've been playing lights out football. This defense is inspiring. And I think once the offense finally puts it together, and that's coming. Again, I've been telling everybody I talk to on Twitter, everybody that tries to say this team's blah, blah, blah. It's a new system. And new systems are not learned fast in the NFL. You got to think of how vastly different these playbooks are, these schemes are. You've got a team that didn't use motion and is now trying to use the most motion in the NFL. You've got a team that could not run the football, and now they have to really figure out, like, how often should we run the football because we can do it so well. And I know a lot of people are like, just keep doing it. Yeah, but that's where the big plays open up, when you can rely on the passing game a little bit. And that's what I think. This week we'll play the Chiefs. I think they need to be firing on all cylinders. Look, it's a home game. They're trying to pack out the bank. I really think that they need to focus on not getting penalties, not turning the ball over, and forcing turnovers. Those are the 3 keys to win. No penalties or very little penalties, especially the pre-snap stuff. You can't be having pre-snap penalties at home. Granted, the reason it's happening is because it's a brand new system, brand new scheme. You got guys lining up. Some guys are supposed to be moving. If somebody doesn't line up properly, they fix themselves. The motion play messes it all up. So that's kind of where that scheme thing is coming into play. And I really think by the bye, those things should be gone. Right? You've got a rookie wide receiver that's trying to learn 2 playbooks at the same time. It's a lot for him to learn. Now, do I think Travis Hunter can do it? Yeah, absolutely. Do I wish they would use him more? Absolutely. But look, the realistic approach to it is, it's a lot to learn. He's a phenomenal player, but he still has to learn the nuances of the game at the NFL level, plus all the things that the Jaguars are trying to implement on a week-to-week basis, right? So I think they did a good job last week kind of trying to limit some of those. They still had too many penalties. But you could see, instead of Travis Hunter being in motion, BTJ was in motion a little bit, Diami was in motion a little bit, Parker Washington was in motion a little bit, the running backs were kind of picking up the bulk of the motion. Because look, the whole point of motion, yes, you sometimes it's to get a guy a running start, right? Because these defensive backs are flat-footed, waiting for the receiver to start running to them, then they decide to do. But if you can get a guy up to 20 miles an hour behind the line of scrimmage, that's a huge upper hand you have, right? But it's also to see what the defense is running. You pull Travis Hunter from one side to the other, and a DB follows him, most likely man coverage, right? So that's kind of the importance of running the motion, which is why the offense was so stale last year. You're not running motion. You're basically going out there running the play that was called, whether the defense is a good coverage to protect it or to defend it or not, right? And that's why Doug Peterson's offense, in my opinion, was just too old school, right? You need to run motion. And in today's NFL, motion is the way you figure out what the defense is running, right? And that's something Tom Brady will tell you was the reason he was so good at the game. I just watched a podcast on him the other day where he was talking about going to play the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and he knew exactly what they were running before they knew they were running it, just the way they were lined up. So I think that's important. I think that's really important for them to get down. But again, you don't want to not do it just because they're doing, the pre-snap penalties. They got to get it down, right? That's the reason the offense will start to work eventually. And again, another reason why I'm not worried about it is because, one, I've seen Trevor Lawrence play at a high level, right? I've seen Brian Thomas Jr. play at a high level. I'm not worried about the drops. They're gonna get fixed eventually. I'm not worried about Travis Hunter with the pre-snap penalties. Gonna be fixed eventually. I'm not worried about Trevor. Like I said, I've seen him play at a high level. It just takes time, right? These guys got to gel just like you and a coworker at work, right? And it's a completely different than just a coworker at work at the same time. These guys have play calls. They have all their individual position, their job, what they're doing on a play. So there's a lot to learn, so I think the team is not at full form yet, and I really think by the by they should be firing on all cylinders, and that's when the easier side of the schedule is. It sucks that we started off the season against good teams in that regard, but we're winning. We're 3-1 at the toughest part of our schedule, which is a good way to look. I already said it. By the by, we need to be 3-4, and we are in position to do that and better. Right? I think we can beat teams like the Chiefs. Granted, they're a very good team. Not trying to say this is going to be a cakewalk by any means. I think this is going to be a dogfight. I think the next 3 games are dogfights, right? Seahawks defense is one of the best in the NFL. We have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Chiefs, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Rams, one of the best offenses in the NFL. So these are dogfights, right? I think we kind of have it favorable in how we're playing them. Get to play Kansas City at home. Get to play Rams in London. So I think those are huge. I think do we play Seattle here? Don't quote me on that. I feel like we play Seattle here. Don't quote me on that. I think we play Arizona on the road, and Seahawks is here. So if that's the case, we really get to play them here, which is a good thing, right? Again, huge West Coast win last week against the 49ers. Didn't play great football in the second half, but the first half is what I think you're going to see after the bye. I think that first half that you saw in the San Francisco 49ers game, you will see after the bye and on. I firmly believe that. And I think the last thing I'm going to lead off with, because this is already a 9-minute long video, this is only one off season, right? This wasn't the win or break year. They're building this for the future. And they're already having success. That's where I'm so ecstatic as a Jags fan. These guys came in, completely destroyed the roster, right? They gutted it. I say destroyed, not a bad way. I say it in, they completely gutted it, right? They got rid of all those picks that Balky had that weren't going to perform, that weren't going to see the field. They traded people for picks. And look, I'm telling you, the reason I'm so freaking excited about this is look at what James Gladstone's draft did with Balky scouts. He didn't get to bring his own scouting department over. They basically bought you. If you think about it, James Gladstone was hired late, right? Like normally you do the GM, then the head coach, right? But they brought in Liam, took a week to figure out James Gladstone, right? And then they started, and that was in February, right? And then we're at the combine and stuff in April. They couldn't just go fire the scouting department, go bring in new scouts, and try to figure it out. No, this is an all year process. So James Gladstone comes in, and what do you get? You get this half of the roster. You're gone. We're not paying Christian Kirk, right? We'll get a 7th round pick for him. Guess what? You can go play for a divisional rival. Everybody freaked out about it. What's he doing, right? Everybody freaked out about Evan Ingram. I was one that freaked out about Evan Ingram because I loved Evan Ingram as a player. Still do. I have no ill feeling towards Evan Ingram. I wish he was still on the team sometimes. But again, look at what he's doing in Denver. Not enough. Not Brenton Strange. He's not doing what Brenton Strange is doing. And you look at Tank Bigsby going, and then guess what? The running back slided up to it and gets a touchdown. Travis Etienne's top 3 in rushing yards. Again, we have guys in the office that know what they are doing. They have guys on the field, the coaching staff that knows what they're doing. Everybody is in unison. Again, I thought it was a little cringy. Every time I see Tony Boselli, James Gladstone, I feel like they're up each other's ass. I'll just say it the way I see it. But they're bros. That's how this shit works. This is how you are in unison, right? The front office gets the right people. The right people get the right players for the coaches, right? Again, last year, you look at it and you're like, damn, the roster's not that bad. Okay? Trent Baalke grabbed a bunch of guys that Doug Peterson didn't fit. It didn't fit what Doug Peterson wanted to do, right? So this year, we've got James Gladstone, who's picking up players that are good players, like Hunter Long, good player, good football player. They knew he had some pass catching ability because they played in LA. And now you're looking at it like, damn, this guy's got 2 touchdown passes in 4 games. He's never caught one in his life. But guess what? Liam wants to be a physical football team and run the football, which can expose those tight ends like that. You've got everybody working in unison. Campanelli's like, hey, I need a good slot corner. I know we got Jarian. Jones, and that's what he played. But I need a dog. Jordan Lewis comes in. Best free agent signing we probably ever had. And I'd say that lightly. I understand we had 2017 was a good year for free agents. I understand that. But these guys are working together, and it's only one offseason. Eric Murray, hell of a pickup. Look at the Texans secondary now. Garbage. Look at what they're doing. Their defensive line is great, phenomenal, but their safeties are not what we have here. Dewey, everybody was freaking out about Dewey being the starter. Look, they figured it out, man. Coach Camp is getting the best out of his players. Devin Lloyd, fucking all-pro year. Everybody was on the get rid of him, right? Don't re-sign him. And now it's like, damn, we probably should have re-signed him. I'm glad we didn't. Again, that's hindsight 2020. Nobody knew what Devin Lloyd was going to do this year. We had a feeling he would be good. He's playing a top 2 player, right? He's probably the best defensive player right now on the Jaguars. And I think very highly of Trayvon Walker. I think very highly. Again, he got hurt last week, and you saw what the team did when he was out. They started slipping up. So Devin Lloyd's playing at an all-pro level. You could say that about Jordan Lewis and Foye, too. They're all playing at those definitely Pro Bowl caliber. But Devin Lloyd, Jordan Lewis, they're all pro level, in my opinion. And again, that's just because James Gladstone and Liam Cohen got together, say, hey, this is what we want to do. And James Gladstone found the players that are going to do what Liam Cohen wants to do. Again, last year, Eric Armstead, great player, right? I think he's a good player. I don't think he's out of his prime, but he's still a good football player. Trent Baalke says, you know what, we're going to let's use him outside. That doesn't work. You got a guy that doesn't work for what we needed. And that's where I think the big disconnect with them were and where it's going so good. Look, I think the Jaguars have a huge chance to win against Kansas City. So, again, I got Kansas City losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars in Duval County, 27-24. Trevor Lawrence leads the game-winning field goal drive. That's my goal. That's what I think is going to happen. See you guys in the next one. Peace.